Thank you. Thanks for reminding, Disha. Fine, so let's move on and let me quickly take you through what a pivot table is. So a pivot table is an interactive way to quickly summarize large amount of the data. Okay, we may have very large data sets. We may have, I mean, I've seen the data sets ranging from 1,000 rows to 6 lakh, 7 lakh rows in one file also. Maybe some of the files even may go into 500 MB kind of thing. Um, so very large data sets, we can have it summarized. So pivot table is useful for summarizing the data. As you can see on the left hand side, there is this large data set. And if we may want to summarize, we just want to see that how many number of units are sold for accessories, and what is the total sales for accessories, what is the average rating for that. So we may want to summarize this in one go. On the right hand side, you can see that this is something that can be possible with the pivot tables. Rather than going into details, filtering it out, sorting it out, if we can summarize it into a smaller table, okay, that's very, very useful. The other thing is that why data analysis and dashboard with pivot tables. So it's very easy to use. It's one of the most underutilized MS Excel tool. Okay, there are many, many features in the pivot tables, but the major issue is that many people do not use it on a regular basis. Not only regular basis, but then there are a lot of things in the pivot tables that many of the people are not aware about it. Pivot tables has a very, very easy feature, drag and drop. You can just drag and drop and then create various summaries and reports. We will see when we work on the Excel sheets and pivot tables, it will be much easier when we work with that. Okay, it allows the calculations and frees us from the complex Excel functions. We don't need to use very complex calculations. Even in the pivot tables, we can use it very simply. Uh, Many new visualization tools have features which are similar to pivots. So if you are using Power BI, if you are using Tableau, if you are using ClickSense, many of the tools which are recently available, okay, majority of that you will find that they are in line with pivot tables. Drag and drop feature, calculations possible, visualizations possible, um, okay, summary possible. So all of these things. So if you know the pivot tables, you can easily upgrade to the next level of tools. That's very, very easily done. Grouping, drill down, updates, cross filtering, slicers, timelines, everything is possible. And this becomes much handy when you are working with one large data set and different types of calculations, different types of analysis. Everything is possible. So for that, this is possible. Okay, next one, if we see, is it is easy to present. It is very, very concise. It is attractive, and we can do the printing also easily. Now, moving on, I have a question. Okay, you can make use of chat box and write your response into the chat box. We are talking about data analysis with pivot tables. So when we are talking about data analysis with pivot tables, first of all, we need to understand what is data analysis or what is decision analysis. So what's your answer? The essence of decision analysis. Why do we do the data analysis? You can read the options and put your answer, put your response into the chat box, please. Yeah, please use the chat box for your answers. Okay, so many of you are saying the answer is A. Some of you are saying answer is all. D. All. Okay. C, A. Nobody is saying B. We don't use the data, we don't do the data analysis to find out the root cause. Okay, so many of you are saying that all in some way or others. Great, great. So let me quickly tell you what actually the essence of the data analysis is. If we see, all four things can be used for decision analysis or data analysis, but what's the essence? What's the final outcome that we want? We break down the complex situations into manageable situations. Yes. Do we need to find out the root cause if something has gone wrong? Yes. Uh, do we need to think to avoid the negative consequences? Yes. But final outcome, why do we need to do the analysis, is that we want to choose the best source of action among different alternatives. We want to do something so that we can earn more revenue, we can reduce the cost, we can have, yes, so Harpreet is saying that problem solving, many of the things can be done. The final outcome that we want based on the analysis is that we may have to take a decision, and then we may want to find out what is the best course. Okay, what is the best course? What is the best option? What is the best alternative for us? Any which way, all the four can be no one or the other way. This is definitely useful. Okay, next question. Which of the following is the part of data cleaning and enrichment process? So initially I told you that if you want to create the pivot table, okay, the data should be structured and clean. If the data is clean and structured, it's much easy to do the analysis on that. Which of the which of the following four items is a part of data cleaning and enrichment process? Is this collection of data? Is this removing irrelevant data points? Is this creating the pivot tables? Or is it the statistical analysis? Okay, so many of you are saying A, B, C. It's good that I'm getting no multiple answers and different answers from all of you. Great. So let me give you the correct answer. The correct answer is B. Okay, the first part is the process of data collection. Okay, many a times the data collection that we are no doing, we have the data collected from various sources, maybe clean, maybe unclean, maybe structured, maybe unstructured. But if you want to do the analysis first, the first and foremost, we have to do data cleaning. Data cleaning removes the irrelevant data points, changes the formats, deals with the missing data points. But data enrichment, okay, adds the new data points, it transforms the data, it makes a lot of other calculations which can be useful for analysis. So data cleaning and enrichment, this is a fundamental no step before we start doing the analysis. Point number C and D. Okay, point number C and D, which is creating the pivot tables, carrying out preliminary analysis. Pivot tables are used for what we call as descriptive analysis. Okay, this is used for the initial level of preliminary analysis, what we call as descriptive analysis. And high level statistical analysis, this is used for the predictive analytics as well as the next level of analytics that we may want to do. So definitely, the next 2 points, C and D is a part of analysis, while B is a part of data cleaning and enrichment. Okay, let me ask you one more question. What is a pivot table? This is what we just discussed a few minutes back. Just 2 minutes back, I gave you the no definition of a pivot table or the uses of pivot tables. Great. So here everyone is having a unanimous response. Everyone is saying the answer is C. Great. And the correct answer is C. Okay. Data, for the preliminary data analysis, we need to do the summarization of data. And for the summarization of data, pivot table is one of the most important too. Great. Which Excel menu allows you to create a pivot table? From which Excel menu that we can find out or we can create a pivot table? Do we do it with home tab? Do we do it with insert tab? Do we do it with data or formula? Great, great. So many of you are saying the answer is B, insert, but it's interesting to see that some of you have also said that this is through D, which is data. Okay, Vijay is saying F4. That's a shortcut. Yes. Saif is saying A and D, which is from home and data. Okay, so the correct answer for this is that you can do it with insert tab. Okay, you can do it with insert tab. Just to show you, this is an Excel sheet. Okay, and this is the data that I have. And if I want to insert, so I can go to insert, and here you have the insert pivot table. And if you want to use a shortcut, just a quick information that how you can use the shortcut. If you press Alt, okay, if you press Alt, all of this in the ribbon that you can see, these letters are highlighted. And as you know that this is in insert, so Alt N and then V. So if you press Alt N V, that also will create a pivot table for you. So these are shortcuts. How we can find out the shortcuts without remembering it? You just need to press Alt and then whatever menu or whatever the ribbon that you can find. In the ribbon, whatever the menu that you can find, and then you can work. Yes, Alt and V. Fine. So moving on, let me tell you what we will be doing next. Okay, an Excel sheet which I have shared with all of you. Let me share that into the chat box again, in case if any one of you have not yet received. So I'm just sharing the link again. Download that on your system. Okay, please download this on the system, and we'll be working on that. Let me also very quickly take you through that how pivot tables are useful and what is the data requirement. So we'll work on it, but let's also understand the data requirements first. So number one is that pivot tables are possible with the structured data. If the data is unstructured or if the data has some empty rows and columns, especially columns, the pivot table will not be created. So we will have to remove, okay, we will have to not remove, but we will have to actually structure it in a way that there are no blank columns. Blank rows are okay. It will create the pivot table, but for the purpose of a better pivot table, for the purpose of an effective pivot table, it would be a good idea to remove the blank rows as well. It will work on structured data, which means that if I show you, okay, this is a table. Okay, here there are every columns. Okay, there is column employee ID, participant name, job band, business unit, region, and this is structured data. So every column has some type of data, and there are no co-mingling of data, which means that if this particular column D is a text, which means that this column will have text only. If it is date format, then the entire, so if this is start date, end date, this is a date format only. It cannot be mix and match. It cannot be some rows text, some rows date, some rows number. It will make it unstructured. It will make it not so comprehensive data set. Okay, number of days, there's a numerical data. So it's good that no, you have in one column the numerical data only. This is text data. So it's very, very important that every column should have one data type. There are no blank columns over here. Okay, this is one thing. The other thing that is important is that first row of the table has to be a header. If there is no header, pivot tables will not understand what do you want to analyze. Okay, so pivot table will not be able to, okay, I am getting a response that it's cannot see the Excel. Okay, just let me know with the chat box. Can you see the Excel? The Excel which I have just put on the screen. Okay. Okay, so many of yours, all of you are saying that it's visible. Maybe a couple of people are saying not visible. So that could be either an internet issue or some other issue from your side. Kindly check, please. Yes, the Excel on the screen is currently different than what is shared with you. Whatever is shared with you, that we will work on. Okay, I'm right now explaining you a concept. So something which is there in front of you, that's different than what I've shared. What I'm sharing with you right now, what I'm showing, that's to understand the concept. The other one which I have given to you is for the practice. We will do that. Okay. Um, so no blank columns, no blank rows. As far as possible, in some of the data sets, there is a possibility that you may need a blank row, but it's important that no, if you don't have the blank rows, that's better. Okay, no blank columns. If there is a blank column, it will not even create a pivot table. It will show you an error. Yes, the link goes to a Google Sheet. Open that Google Sheet and then download it. No subtotals, no grand totals. So you should not have a already summarized data. If it is already summarized data, if there are already grand totals and subtotals into it, then when you do the summary of this table again, it will be a double counting. Okay, it will be a double counting. You will find two times the same thing. So it's better that remove all the subtotals, remove all the grand totals from your data set. One row represents exactly one record, which means that you should not have one record to be spilled into the next row. Okay. Also, make sure that there are no duplicates. So how to clean that? I will show this to you. Okay. Every column has one type of data, not multiple data types in the same column. Can be Excel or other external data set. So you can create this with the help of Excel sheets. You can create this with the help of some you can create this with some website. Let's say some data set that you are getting from website, some text txt files, some csv files, maybe more than one Excel files. You can combine and create the pivot tables. uh, but a classic pivot table, a single pivot table which is on a traditional way, which is available in Excel, works on one Excel sheet. Okay, one Excel sheet, not one Excel file. Okay, one Excel sheet, one single table. If you want to have some more tables, maybe joining two tables, joining three tables, joining different data sources, then you will have to add that into something called as data model, or may have to use something called as Power Query. Okay, a gist of that I will show it to you, that how it can be done. But primarily we will be using a single no pivot table or a single data source. Let me take you through now the Excel file. Let's create a first pivot table. Um, we will do it with the Excel database. With other data sets, Power Query, okay, multiple Excel sheets if it is possible. We will see that how much time we have and then we'll work on that as well. So what are we going to learn? We are first going to create and format a pivot table. We are going to insert pivot table and Excel tables. We are going to format the pivot tables. We are going to add some calculations into it. We are going to add the slicers and connect them. And also we'll try to create a dynamic dashboard with that. So let's start working on that. Okay, let me give you a gist that what is the final outcome that we are looking at. So this is not the file which I have shared with you, but I'm just giving you an example. So in this data, okay, I have simply used pivot tables, no complex calculations, no formulas, no different things. It's a simple pivot table. And as you can see that this is a dashboard which has been created with the help of pivot table. If I click on Asia, my all this data is changing based on my selection of Asia. If I click on Canada, this entire data set, you can see that all of these things are changing. Okay, if I click on US, if I want Canada and US together, I just need to select it with click. Okay, I've just selected with a control and click Canada and US. And in that, if I just want to have professional development, then I'll just click this. So you can see that this is dynamic. I want to see that how these L&D initiatives have been for junior management, for middle management, for leadership and senior management. So I'm just selecting this with control click. This entire dashboard is with very, very simple tools of pivot tables. Okay, one more example. This is also, this I had done for one of my clients earlier. Okay, where in different offices, so let's say Bihar state office, Delhi. So how the feedback is, how the initiative, the learning and development initiative has been. Okay, what is the average feedback of the participants, how many participants joined in. Now the moment that you select one thing or a combination of various things, okay, your dashboard changes. um, and let me give you one more example. Okay, this is also with one more data set that I've created. This is Canada. So if I click Canada, you can see this map graph. Okay, this map graph is available only with the Office 365. Okay, this is not available with the other versions. So in case if you are using 2010, 2016, even 2019, but if you are not having the Office 365, then probably this will not work. So some of the things which I told you, okay, this tiny graphs that you are seeing is not a part of pivot table. This is something called as spark lines. But yes, on the pivot table, the data that we get, on that we can create the spark lines as well. Similarly, we can use something called as you can see. So this distribution dashboard that I'm putting in front of you, okay, which is there in front of you. This is again a dashboard. This tiny graphs are spark lines. At the bottom, something that you are seeing, this is conditional formatting. So on the data that you summarize with the pivot table, this is a pivot table. Okay, and on that I have created the conditional formatting. So which means that you can do any kind of formatting that you may want to do. So you can do the formatting. You can also do a lot of other calculations on this. Okay, so this is something that I just thought that before we start, I'll share with you. I hope this is fine with everyone. Any questions? I'm just closing these files so that we can work on the Excel sheets together. Okay, for the time being, I'm closing these Excel files and I'm opening the file that I have shared with you. Before we start, any questions? Is everyone ready to work with? Okay, so Arpreet, there's a question. Was any visualization tool used or only Excel? So the three files that I've showed to you, they are on Excel, on pivot tables, nothing else. No other tools. That was simple Excel. Of course, we can have a lot of things maybe in the next sessions where I can take you through Power BI and Power Query and other things. But this was only Excel. Pie chart is made by using pivot? Yes. Not only pie chart, all the charts that I showed to you, all the charts that I showed to you, all of this were on the pivot tables and then creating the charts on that. Yeah, Ravi, only one file has been shared at this point of time. I have not yet shared these three files. These are samples. If you want, after the session, I will share with you. Saurabh has a question. Will the recording be shared? Yes. I will share the recording link to all of you, all those who have joined. Map chart is not available on Excel. It's not available in a normal version. Map chart, if you want, it is available in Office 365, which is now known as Microsoft 365. So if you have Microsoft 365, then only this map chart is available. Okay. Can you share again? Okay, let me share the link again. I have not yet shared this dashboard files with all of you. So please don't search these dashboards in the file which is shared with you. That I will share it with you later. Yes, recordings will be shared at the end. Recordings will be shared later. I hope the recording is on. Yes, the recording is on. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, let's get started. As I told you earlier, the file is view only. That's because I've shared a Google link with you. Please download that. If you are directly trying to work on that Excel file, it will not work. You will have to download it on your system. I cannot allow editing into it. Otherwise, everybody will have a problem accessing the same. Yeah, Harpreet, I will share the charts. I will share the files. The Excel file you can download. Okay, just let me know if you can download the Excel file, please. Has anyone been able to download? Yeah, so many of you are saying downloadable. Save it locally using make a copy in Google Sheets. And what I will do is that later, this particular file also I will share with you. So right now you can, in case if it is becoming difficult for you, you can just work along. You can see on the screen and then you download. Go to the file tab and then download. Sorry. Okay, so let's get started. This particular data, this is the financial data set. I hope everybody, those who have downloaded the file, have opened the file. Please open the file. Okay, so yes, fine. Uh, I've got the responses that many of you have got the file and opened. So I'm just quickly showing it to you. Our first requirement of the pivot table that it should be a structured data. First row of the table should be as a header. So as you can see, the first row is header. The first column is segment, country, product, discount. And this is actually a sales data and some financial data along with it. So you have how many units are sold, how many, what is the selling price, what is the gross sales price. This is a sample file which generally is available with the Power BI no tutorials on the Microsoft website. So this is actually a publicly available data set. And okay, let me know if the screen is visible. I'm getting the response that the screen is not visible. Yeah, visible. Fine. So let's continue. Let's continue. Okay, so number one, no blank columns. Let me show this to you. I'm just selecting. So I'm putting my cursor on the first cell. Okay, A1. Control Shift right arrow. Control Shift right arrow will select up to whatever data that you are finding. I'm pressing Control Shift right arrow again. So this is selecting the entire data set. Control Shift down arrow. It will be taking it up to wherever there is a blank. So like this, I'm selecting this data set. And now what I'm doing is that insert pivot table. Okay, and I want to do it in the new worksheet. So this is actually selecting the table or range. This is taking a worksheet financial A1 to N779 and I want to create it into a new worksheet. You can have it in the existing worksheet with the location selected also. Add this data to the data model. This is when we have to work for multiple tables and all, and No, whenever this is actually you have to use the power pivot and all. Right now, I'm not selecting this data model. I'm just taking new worksheet and clicking OK. So as you can see that this is giving us an error. Now, why there is an error? Our data is structured, everything is okay. Pivot table field name is not valid. It cannot take a blank name. Okay, the first row of the table has to be a header. If there is, so we call it as column, Excel understands it as a field. When there is the terminology used as field, we must understand that it is talking about a column. So to create a pivot table report, you must use data that is organized as a list with labeled columns. If you are changing the name of pivot table field, you must type a name of the field. So because these are blank, okay, it is not allowing us. So I'm just selecting this D and E. Okay, and I'm just using a shortcut control minus. So one way is that you can do is right click and then delete. That's one way. You can put your cursor here, just press control minus and then entire column. This is another way. Or you can just select these columns and control minus, it will remove. Now, if I create with this data set, the pivot table, now it will create. So there is no requirement that the rows should not be blank. Okay, but if we keep the blank rows, then there is a problem that no, it may do a wrong calculation or it may show us a pivot table in which there are a lot of blanks. So the better idea is that let us select these columns. So I'm selecting all of these columns and this entire data set. Okay, you can actually select the entire column also. And there is one response which already Aditya has given as a solution in the chat box. Control G special blanks OK. Which means what we are going to do, we are going to find out where there are blanks and the entire rows we are going to delete. So either you go to Home tab and here you have find and select and go to special. Okay, this is a long cut. This is a long way that you can do. But the other way that you can do is that as no, Aditya has written the um, answer is that you can just simply press Control G. So if you press Control G, special, and it will give us blanks. So if you click on blanks, this is selecting only those cells which are the blanks. And what we can do is that home, delete, delete sheet rows, or you can just press control minus and then rows. So delete sheet rows. Now our data is pretty simple. Now our data is ready for use for the pivot tables. So this is how that we can clear the data. Okay, a couple of things also that we must do. Okay, a couple of things also that we must do before. Generally, I do it when I am using a pivot table. If it is a very small data set, it's not a very large data set, then I convert this data. Okay, I convert this data into a table. Now, what do you mean by a table? You can say that, okay, this is a table. This is already a table. There are columns, there are rows, there are no blanks into it. This is already a table. Then what do you mean by table? So in Excel, when you put your cursor inside the data set and when you click on insert, apart from pivot table, you also have a feature called as table. As you can see on the screen, this is giving you a shortcut control T. Okay, now how this is going to be useful? Again, I'm telling you, if the data set is too large, okay, if you are having 1 lakh, 2 lakh rows, or let's say 50 MB, 100 MB data, please don't use this because this will make your files larger. But if you are having a small data set, 10,000 rows, 20,000 rows, then this is okay. Okay, this is something that can be used. Now, what is the use of this? Let's see. I'm just, you can do insert and table. This is one way that you can do. Okay. or you can just simply press Control T. The third way that you can create a table is you can go to Home, and here you have Format as Table. So this will give you the designs also for that. Either you create a table with Control T and after that you know design it, or you can directly take a designing from here. I'm doing it something which is most of the data analyst is more conversant with, so Control T. And as you are doing Control T, what it is doing that wherever it is finding blank, it is automatically selecting the data set. So A12L807, okay, on the right hand side in the column, wherever it is finding blank, till 807th row where it is finding blank. Okay, it is taking it up to that. And let me click. So, okay, my table has headers. If your table does not have the header, then you can untick this. But in that case, instead of headers, it will show column 1, column 2, column 3, column 4, so and so forth. It's always better that you should have a headers to your or labels to your data set. Let me click OK. And as you can see that the moment there is a table, there is one more tab which has got added in the ribbon, which is table design. So if my cursor is outside the table, there is no table design. But if I put a cursor inside the table, there is a table design. Now, why this is useful? Okay, why this is useful? This makes your data table range as dynamic. Okay, just to show you, in case if you are doing this with me, please do not do anything. You must have pressed Control T and created a table. Okay, but whatever now I'm going to show you, please don't do it. Okay, otherwise you'll have to do Control Z and come back to it. Okay, we are not deleting anything. We are going to column M and I'm writing column M. Okay, I'm writing column N. Can you see that there is this extension of the table, which means that anything that you add on the right hand side will be the part of the table, and any calculation. So this is not only for pivot table, but let's say if you have done a calculation with the help of simple Excel functions like sum or average or anything else, VLOOKUP or anything else that you may have done. If you convert your data into the Excel table, okay, this makes a range which is dynamic, and anything that you add on the right hand side will be a part of that table. Okay, I'm just doing Control Z so that it brings me back to my data set. I'm now pressing Control down arrow. With the Control down arrow, it will take us to the last row. Okay, so there were some blank rows where there was nothing. That also got a part of my table because it was dollar signs and then some calculations which was done over here. Okay, there was some formula, so it has got over here. But let's say if I'm deleting this, okay, 775 onwards, let me just delete this. I'm just pressing Control minus, and if anything else is getting pasted below or typed below, so I'm just typing over here. Okay, so let's say government, I'm typing. Let's say channel partners, I'm typing. Can you see this is becoming a part of your table also? I'm also pasting it. This will work even if you paste it. So if I say Control C and then come here and paste it. Okay, this also may become the part of your table. Currently it has not become because there were blanks on the top. Okay, but then this extension that you can see, you can just drag it down and then you can make a dynamic range along with this. Okay, so this is basically a dynamic range. I'm bringing it back over here and I'm deleting the extra rows that we had beyond this. Okay, so there is one question. It can change the column data if the row has only one blank. Uh, it actually doesn't change the data. It adds. It is basically if you have any additional data which is coming at the bottom, or if you are adding any columns to the right, it is just making it part of the table. So any calculations that you do, or any kind of no analysis that you do, any kind of pivot tables that you create, it makes it much more dynamic. Okay, it just makes it more dynamic. It doesn't change the data, it adds into it, uh, and it is making it dynamic. That's it. Okay, I hope I'm answering your question. Fine. So moving on. Okay, moving on. Let me also now take you through the next thing. If we talk about this Excel table, in the table design, okay, you can have a lot of designing that you can do, banded rows. I'm not going into details of that. That can be seen in the next sessions. But one very important aspect that I generally do before I start doing the analysis with the pivot tables is that I see if there are any unique fields or unique items, because I may want to do the analysis segment wise. So let's say you may want to identify that how many units sold segment wise. So how many units are sold to the government customers, how many units are sold to the small business customers, how many units are sold to the channel partner customers, uh, how much is the gross sales for the product Amarilla or Carretera or Peso or Velo or VTT. Now you can identify the unique items when you are clicking on this filter. Okay. If you are creating into an Excel table, automatically these filters will come. If you don't want, you can go to the table design and then you can just uncheck this filter button so it can go off. But I generally keep it because this is much more handy for the filters and the sorting. So if you click over here, you can do sorting as well as filtering both. Not only that, if we just scroll it instead of A, B, C, D on the top, you can see the headers. So this becomes much more easy for the analysis if you are creating it into an Excel table. Okay, now before I create a pivot table, what I do generally, I create a pivot table, insert pivot table. Now, as you can see, this is showing us table 1 because this is the name of this Excel table. Let me take it to new worksheet. Okay, and here what I do, I don't add anything in the columns or values or filters initially. I just take one field, one column where I may want to do the analysis. Let's say I may want to do the analysis for sales segment wise or country wise. I just put it into the rows. Now this gives us the unique fields. Okay, let me show this to you why this is important. I'm just changing one of the fields as Canada. It is Canada only, but I'm just adding some spaces to it. Okay, this is one more Canada, which I will write as a capital and then adding the spaces to it. Automatically, this has taken something which is available. Let's say I'm doing a separate spelling of Canada. Okay, now it may look like that everything is okay in this data set, but if I just do right click and refresh, you can see that, okay, Canada, Canada 3 times. So the point is that it's very, very important initially to know that there are no duplicates. Not only that, not only duplicates, but there are nothing which is um, non-analyzable, or this may distort our analysis. So I generally put it into a single row, okay, single column in the row labels, so that if there are any duplicates like this, that we can find out. We can go back over here and then wherever there are possibilities of this. So let's say this Canada is a wrong spelling, then let's change this. So I'm bringing it here. Then at some places where I did the changes in the Canada, there was spaces. There were a lot of spaces over here. Okay, so I generally do this. Most of the times I create the list for all of them, then right click, then refresh. So now you're finding there is one more Canada over here, which is not not actually a clean one. So this is useful for cleaning of the data. I use this for cleaning of the data. And like this, I create the list for almost every table that I may have. So country, then let's say product. Is this single? Yes. Okay, let me paste it over here. I remove this country, bring the discount band. Is this single? Yes. Okay, now I paste it over here. So I actually create, before doing any kind of data analysis, one worksheet. Okay, one full worksheet, which is only for, okay, which is only for list. I call this as list worksheet. Okay, so list. And after that, I start working with the pivot tables. Okay, I'll pause here for maybe 30 seconds or so. I would like to know if everyone is with me. If you have any questions at this point of time. Any questions, anybody? Okay, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Okay, now let's do one thing. Okay, this is the financial data set. This I've used for taking you through for the data cleaning and all. You can use any of the data set in this that you may want to. There is financial data set, there is workforce attrition, there is distribution data, there is L&D data. So there are a lot of things that I've given you as the data set. I'm going to use the financial data set. But yes, if you would like to use any of the data set, you can. Yes, Amit, the recording will be shared for the entire session. It is currently on. Okay, the recording is on. So definitely I will share it with you. Okay, so let me first clean this country part where there was Canada 2-3 times that I changed. So I'm just removing this additional spaces and bringing it back to the I'll do one thing. Generally what I do a filter, take Canada, and whatever is the first one, Control C, Control Shift down arrow, and Control V. So everything will be the same rather than searching it. And so clear filter from the country. Okay, let me do that. And now I'll come to the list, right click, refresh. Okay, now this is one only. Okay, so I'm moving on now. Sure, Amit, I'll give my coordinates as well as know how we can join for the further sessions. I'll give my coordinates after some time. Okay, let's start working. Number one, I would like to know from you, okay, you see this data, and I would like to know from you what kind of analysis that you would want to do with this data. You have segment, country, product, discount band, units sold. What kind of analysis that you can do with this data? So one example is that segment-wise sales. Okay, you may want to do segment-wise sales. What else? Product-wise, country-wise, segment-wise. Okay. Have you created separate columns in the list sheet? No. What I've just done is that I created one pivot table. So this is the table, insert, pivot table, table one, automatically this is taken up because this is the Excel table that we created, new worksheet, and then okay. And I selected this segment and put it into the rows, nothing else. And then every time I just did Control C, Control V. Then the rows that segment I removed, put the country back over here. Okay, I did Control V over here, remove the segment, add the product. Control V, remove this, add the discount. And this is just to know that everything is okay. Net sale of each segment, net sale of each segment and country, okay. Country wise sales, product wise sales, okay, fine. So let's try to have a small analysis and the dashboard, something like this, where we may want to do the analysis date wise, country wise, discount band wise, segment wise, product wise. And what do we want to know? We want to know profits, we want to know sales, so sales, profits. Country wise, we may also want to know COGS, cost of goods sold. Okay, so all of these things that we want, and we want to create different charts. So we may want to create a pie graph, we may want to create line graph, we may want to create this bar graph, okay, spark lines, map graph, and the top that you can see are called as slicers. Okay, on the top that you are seeing, that's called as slicers. So let's try to create that. Let's try to create that. Fine. So for this, let me show you what kind of pivot tables we will need. We will need the first pivot table. Now, as you can see, we want the date, we want the sales, we want the cost of goods sold, and we want the profits. Okay, sales, cost, and profit analysis. Now, where this particular pivot table is used, this pivot table is used to create this line graph. So what we will do, we will keep on creating the pivot tables. Simultaneously, we will keep on creating the charts on that. And we will have one blank worksheet where we will keep on pasting, cutting and pasting these charts so that our dashboards, okay, our dashboard can be created along with. Okay, would you like to do that? Would you like to create the pivot table, the charts as well as the dashboard together? Okay, let's do that. Let's do that, everybody. Okay, so let's create this first table. Okay, sales, cost, and profit analysis. So I'm clicking on this financial data. Let's do that together. Everybody, put your cursor inside the data set. Okay, for that, first you please remove the blank columns, blank rows. If you want, you can create it into an Excel table. If not, you can just select the range and then do insert pivot table and new worksheet. Let's click on new worksheet. Let's take it okay. Okay, now here. Some of the things that I want to actually show you is not only creating the pivot tables, but also to make use of that into much more effective way for the analysis purpose. Yeah, we can go, we are actually going one by one. Okay, we will see each of them one by one. Let's see that. Fine. So at least just create this pivot table. And once this is done, you please write in the chat box if it is done. Just click your cursor in the financial data, Alt and V, that's a shortcut, or you can do insert pivot table and take it into the new worksheet. Once you are here, just let me know. Why blank? You can do it in the same worksheet also, but if your data set is too large, then maybe in the same worksheet somewhere where the blank space is available, you will have to create. And as we want to do multiple type of analysis in one worksheet, okay, create various charts and then create a dashboard. So it's better that we take a blank worksheet. And why this is blank? We still have to put the data over here. So we'll be putting that rows and columns and other things. Fine. So majority of you have already done this. So let's continue. The moment that your pivot table is created, and if your cursor is inside the pivot table, you will find these pivot table fields. Okay, if your cursor is outside, you won't find the pivot table fields. If your cursor is inside, it is available. Many times it happens that even if you have put your cursor inside the pivot table, Okay, in that case, you may not find this pivot table fields on the right hand side. That's because no, probably this may have been closed from here. So if this is the case, you just need to do right click. Okay, then show field list. Put your cursor inside the pivot table and do show field list. It will pop up again. If not, okay, if not, you can go to the moment that you put your cursor inside the pivot table, there are two tabs on the ribbon which are added: pivot table analyze and design. Okay, so in the pivot table analyze, you have this field list. You can click on this field list. Okay, and you can click on this field list. And then it will be back. Okay, I think there are a couple of participants who are saying that please admit me from the other device as well. Let me just admit all of you. Fine. Now, when you get this pivot table field list, okay, pivot table fields, what can be done? You have 4 items at the bottom: filters, columns, rows, and values. So anything that you put in the rows, so I'm just selecting this segment, adding into the rows. This will come here as a column. That means that the data is into the rows. The data is into different rows, though it looks like a column. Anything that you put in the columns, so let's say I'm picking up the country and putting it into the columns. This will come into a row. Okay, now this is a drag and drop. Okay, this is drag and drop. So what will happen is that every time any kind of change that you may want to do, it will be dynamic. It will be very, very dynamic. The way that you want, you can do it. Okay, we want this something like this, where we want sales, cost of goods sold, and profit in the columns, and we want the dates into the rows. So I'm going back to our data, and in the rows, I'm removing the segment, and from the columns, I'm removing the country, and let me take date. Okay, now see what happens. I'm putting the date into the rows. Those who are using 2016 and later versions, okay, those who are using 2016 and the later versions will find this automatic grouping done. But 2010 and I think 2013 also, okay, it will not give you this automatic grouping as far as the dates is concerned. Okay, let me show you how it will show you. Right click and I'm just doing ungroup. So it will be showing you something like this where all the dates are available. But if you are using, let me just do Control Z, sorry. 2016 and later versions, then you are finding this grouping. This plus will give you the quarters and then the months. Now this is already grouped. If you want to change this kind of grouping, what can be done? Let me give you a very brief overview of that. Automatically here, as you can see, years, quarters, date has come. For the date grouping, okay, for the date grouping and all, you can just do right click over here and group. Now, because this is date, so time and date grouping automatically this is giving. This is possible only if your data is formatted as date. If your data is not formatted as date, it will not come. It has to be formatted as date. Now, I don't want quarters because in India, we have a different way that the quarters are calculated. Okay, we have the quarter one starting from April. So I don't want a calendar year base. If you want, yes, we can do it. But then for that, we have to give the calculations inside the data set. So right now, I'm not going into that. But let's say years and months. Okay, and okay. And I want the values. So if we see here, what do we want? Sales, cost of goods sold, and profit. This is what that we want. I don't want anything in the columns right now. Let's pick up sales. Let's pick up cost of goods sold and let's pick up profit. Now, by default, any numerical data that you pick up and put in the values, it will do summation. Any text data that you pick up and put into the value, it will do counting. Okay. So right now we selected sales, cost of goods sold, and profit. So automatically it has done summation. Now sum of sales, sum of cost of goods sold, and sum of profit. This is the headers which Excel has automatically taken up. But let's say you may want to have a different name. You don't want to have this. So you simply need to type sales. Now already there is a column in your original data set as sales. So if I just type sales and then enter, okay, it may or may not take. A better idea is that you can just type sales and then add a space to it. So then it will take. I generally do that. Okay, COGS space add profit space add. Okay, now once you do this, okay, certain designing features, certain formatting features, I will quickly take you through. But before that, let me know from all of you. Up to this, all of you are with me? Yes, no? Please put into the chat box, please. Yes, okay. Thanks for your confirmations, everyone. Okay, thank you, thank you. Thanks for your confirmations. Okay, now, as you can see, there are rows, there are columns, there are values, and there are filters. Anything that you want in a matrix form, okay, you can put into the rows and columns. Values, the data which goes into the table, that will go into the values, and anything that you may want to filter, okay, that will go into the filter. I'll take you through the filter maybe after 2, 3 no other calculations that we do. Okay, Anuj has a question, how to group this. Oh, sorry. So if you are using 2007, so the image that you have put is 2007 version. How to group this? Thanks for asking this. Currently, your data shows ungrouped data like this. Just do right click and click on group. Okay, just do right click and click on group. And it will let you know starting it, ending it. So it will give you the oldest date and the newest date, the latest date in your data set. And then you can do the grouping the way that you want. Years, months, quarters. If you only take months, then all the Januaries will be together. So right now, as you can see, this is 2021 to 2022. Okay, if there are 5 years and Januaries, all the 5 years Januaries will be together. So I generally prefer to do it years and months. And then okay. Okay, Anush, is this fine? Here's the question. When we put more fields in the rows, it gets added as a subset one by one. So it becomes long. We can make it horizontal. If yes, how to do it? Yes, it is. And as you can see that, no, this plus and minus, these are extension and collapse buttons that you have. If I just click on this collapse button, okay, this is actually a dynamic pivot for you. And if you want to see the further data, then you can do it like this. You can just click on this plus sign. One more thing that you can do is that in case if you don't want to no click on plus and minuses, you can just do right click on this and you have this expand and collapse. So if I do collapse, it allows me to collapse only one field or maybe the entire field. So if I say entire field, it will be all the months which got collapsed. If I do right click and expand and collapse, expand entire field. This is the way that you can do. Okay, so Victor, I hope, no, not Victor, Harsh. Harsh, I hope this is something that you were looking for. If you would like, you can change from columns to rows and rows to columns also. For example, I have the date and the years over here. Let's say years I take in the columns. So now it is like this. And this values which is in the columns, if I just hold it from here. So right now this is in the columns, okay? Sales, so this sales, cost of goods sold and profits is column wise. But let's say this sigma values I pick up and put it into the rows. Now it will be like this. So how you may want to show, okay, you want a bigger table or a smaller table. I'm just putting back these values to columns and yours back to the rows. This is completely dynamic. Okay, you can actually drag and drop and see which one that you are more comfortable with, and then you can do. But there's a question, how can we rename the labels from some of COGS to CH? I just put my cursor over here and typed it. So you can just put your cursor on the header, start typing to it. The other way that you can do is right click and you have value field settings. So you can click on value field settings and you have custom name. So you can just click over your custom name. Let's say I say total sales. So I wrote total sales and okay. So it changed. But simple is that you can just not type. Better that you add one space because you already have sales in your original data. So sometimes it doesn't take. Okay. Um, how did you group it? I just put my cursor on the first column, right click, and then group. Okay, now a few things about formatting for this. Generally, by default, the field names will be on the top and these four areas will be at the bottom, filter, column, values, and rows. Uh, if you are not comfortable, okay, if you are not comfortable with this, there is this gear icon that you find in tools. You can click on this and it is allowing you in different ways that how you may want to see. I find this second option also very good. Okay, so if you do this, the second option, field selection, areas. So you can see the fields over here and the four areas over here. Okay, so this is something that can be done. But yes, by default, generally what happens that everybody is more comfortable with a classic way that it is being shown. So this is something that you can explore further on your own and then what way that you may want to present. Now, moving on, when you put your cursor inside the pivot tables, this pivot table analyze and design, these two tabs are getting activated. If I click on design, okay, it is allowing me various designs. This you can explore further that how you can design. Okay, various ways that you can have a presentation in different colors. You have these banded rows, banded columns, row headers, column headers. So if I say banded rows, it is showing two colored. If I say banded columns, it is showing two colored columns. Row headers, so this is bold. Okay, column headers, this is bold. What I find more interesting is this. I generally use this, okay, in all my pivot tables, report layout. So there are three different types of report layout available: compact, outline, and tabular. What you are currently seeing is a compact. So what happens is that row labels, the top is shown as row labels. Okay, I'm not comfortable showing all my pivot tables as row labels. So what I do is that in the design, I generally show report layout as outline form. The moment you change from compact to outline, okay, it will give you the name of the column that you have picked up. So this is date and this is actually taking this drill down that you want to do into a next column. So this looks much more simple to understand and much more simple to analyze. The other thing that is there, if you want, you can also use a tabular form. This is more like a table. So in the report layout, you can just toggle among these three and you can find out that which one that you would like most. So compact, outline, or tabular. I usually use either outline or a tabular. I hardly use compact. I don't like compact because it shows the row labels on the top. You don't even know that which column it is. So I usually use either outline or a tabular form. One more thing, in the design, in the report layout, you have repeat all item labels and do not repeat all item labels. So if you click on repeat all item labels, see how it works. If I say repeat all labels, you see that this is all repeated. Okay. and otherwise it will not reflect. So this is again something that you can try. If you want, you can add the grand totals. You can remove the grand totals. Currently, there is a grand total available. Um, we have only taken one particular column, which is sales, COGS, profit. But if I had the dates, let's say in the columns over here, okay, then you may see that there is a subtotal available. Currently, this is no subtotal available, but then there are totals available. So this is for the columns. And if I take it here, okay, this is for the rows. So if you want, you can switch it on. If you want, you can switch it off for the rows and column. If I say off for rows and columns, then it will not show any grand total. Similarly, there is this subtotals. Now, as you can see, 2021 subtotal is available, 2022 subtotal is available. If you switch it off, no subtotal will be available. So do not show subtotals. There are no subtotals. It all depends upon how do you want to show, at the bottom, at the top. This is something which you can explore. Okay, I'm not spending too much of time into this because this is something which you can easily explore. Uh, the other thing that you can also use is blank rows. So if you add insert blank line after each item, okay, it will add one additional blank row. Okay, so this is something which is very, very simple. Um, one more thing before we move on to the next set of no table as well as the further analysis. As you can see, sales, cost of goods sold, and profit currently is into a very, very bad shape of formatting. Okay, with this, you are not able to even identify the numbers properly. So what we generally do is that we select this data, then we go to home, and then we find out the number formatting from here. Maybe this, let's say number or currency or accounting and all. Uh, in a pivot table, it's better not to use this. Because what will happen if you refresh the pivot table, your formatting may go off. So a better way of doing is that what we can do is, and again, let's say if I'm using this home and then this formatting from here, I will have to select all the things. Otherwise, if I just select this and then do it, it will take only those cells. So if I want the full columns to be formatted, better that we do right click and we do value field settings. And when we do value field settings, then we get this pop-up. We can select this number format from here. So let's take number format from here, and whatever formatting that you may want, you can take. So let's say I want to have a currency format, and this is rupee symbol. This is two decimals that I want, and I want to show if it is a negative number with a minus sign. And okay. Okay, so as you can see, this is for the entire column. Okay, if I use the formatting from home, let's say this I use as a currency, this is only for that one cell. So it's better that no, we don't use that. I generally prefer to use it with number cell formatting from. So here, value field settings, number format, let's take currency, and then okay. So whatever that you may want, you can take. You can take a number format, you can take a currency format, you can take a text format, accounting. Okay, let's say I take accounting. So this is the way. Now on this, I'm creating a line chart. So let's say this is the line chart I want. This is what that we are going to create or put it into our dashboard. Okay. Now, as you can see in this line chart, this has converted into a pivot chart. Why pivot chart? This has been created on a pivot table. So there is this sales, cost of goods sold, profit, these icons on the top. On the right hand side, you can see values, and at the bottom, you can see years and date. Now, the way that you do a normal chart formatting, everything can be done on this particular chart. Good thing is that it is grouped 2021 into 1, 2022 into 1, and there's this plus sign. 2007 version will be having a little different way of showing the chart elements. You will have to go to the design of a chart, and then from that you will have to take. But 2000 13 onwards, you find this plus sign, and then it is becoming much, much easier to identify those items. Now, let's say I'm showing you this particular dashboard which is created. You are not finding any buttons on the top, on the right hand side or on the top or like that. It is simple. It looks like a simple chart. Okay, so how to do that? This is actually a pivot chart. But how to do that? So I'm going back to the worksheet where we were creating this line chart. Okay. One way you do the right click. Okay. One way what you can do is that you can do right click and hide all value filled buttons on the chart and filled buttons on the chart. Okay. So if you do hide, okay, what will happen? None of these buttons will be shown. Right click, hide legend filled buttons or all filled buttons. So if I do all filled buttons, this goes off. Sometimes when you do, I'm just doing Control Z to bring it back. Okay, sometimes when you do right click, it doesn't do a right click properly, or no, you are not finding these items. In that case, what you can do is that you can go to field chart analyze, and there is this filled buttons. And from here, you can select if anything that you want or do not want. So show report filter, currently it is showing filter buttons. If you don't want, just untick. Okay, if you don't want legend, this goes off. If you don't want access, this goes off. Okay, value, or you can also simply say hide all. And then any other formatting into a normal chart that you may want to do, that you can do. I do not generally like to keep the grid lines. So grid lines, I selected delete. Okay, you can do the formatting from this plus with the chart titles, axis titles, data labels, error bars, grid lines, legends, everything. Or you can just do right click and format chart. Okay, and then different elements that you find of the chart. So currently I'm selecting this axis. So this is format axis. And then what color that you want, how do you want to do the axis options to be shown. Okay, all of these things can be done. Let's say the legends, I don't want to show it on the right. These legends, I want to show it at the top. Now, what I'm doing is that I'm just creating a blank worksheet and clicking OK. And let me give this as a name as dashboard. So we created one worksheet as list. Another worksheet, let me call this as analysis. Sorry. Where we are creating different pivot tables and the charts. And one we will be calling it as dashboard. So I'm cutting, okay, Control X of this line chart, putting it into the dashboard worksheet and arranging it. So let's say I want it at the bottom here. Okay, this is the way that I put it. We will keep on adding different items here, and then we will try to create the final dashboard. So this is one chart, one table, one element of dashboard that we have created. Before I move on, I'm going back to analysis, and let me ask you, up to this, everyone is with me? Up to this, whatever we discussed, are you all with me? Thank you. Thanks for your responses. Thanks everyone for your responses. Now what I'm going to do, many times I've seen people going to the data set, again doing insert pivot table, and then again doing all the things. Okay. Before that, I'll tell you the trick that I generally use in my dashboard. I create one pivot table, then I try to identify what is needed in my dashboard. So I see that in my dashboard, what do I want? I want a line graph, I want a pie graph, I want a bar graph, I want a map graph, I want some slicers, I want some spark lines to be added, and all of these I want to be connected with each other. So for the connection, I will need a slicer. Now, if you first create all the tables, so let's say this table number 1, table number 2, table number 3, table number 4, and then if I do a slicer, the problem is that the slicers will not be connected. You will have to connect it separately. Okay, just to show you, this is a slicer. If I do right click and if I show you report connections, so what it is showing that this particular slicer is connected, as you can see this tick mark, with multiple pivot tables. So on the worksheet called as financial analysis, there is this table called as country, there is this table called as discount brand sales group. With that, this is connected. Okay. So if first I create the pivot tables and then create the slicer, I will have to create these connections separately. Instead of that, what I generally do is that this is the one, what kind of slicers I will need. So I'll need a slicer for country, I'll need a slicer for date, a product, a discount band, and a segment. So these slicers will be helping us to create multiple filters. Okay. Generally, what you must be doing, or what many of you must be doing, that this is a pivot table. I'm showing the pivot table fields. So show pivot table fields list. Okay, and here in the filter, so I put a segment over here. This is this segment, and then select this is for channel partners. Okay. Okay, this is for enterprise. This is okay. This is for government. This is okay. I don't want to do this. Okay, so I remove the filter. Basically, this also is a good way of doing analysis. You can add multiple filters. So let's say segment, country, product, discount band, and then you can do multiple way of doing filtering. You can select multiple items also. And here also, you can select various things and then you can do the analysis. So again, let's say in the government, in Canada, France, Germany, Mexico, this only that you want. This is one way of doing analysis. Okay, the other way is that let's not add any filters to this. Okay, but let's add the slicers. So I just removed all the filters and I'm adding the slicers to this. To add the slicer, you should have a Excel version, which is 2010 and later. Okay, 2007 version. So I think somebody had put up an image in the chat earlier. I think Anuj has put up a image for a pivot table. Anuj, you are using 2007 version. There is this on the left hand side. There is this button which is shown, which indicates that you are using 2007 version. So 2007 version does not have these slicers. Okay, so please bear with me for a few minutes. This slicers is not possible for you. These filters would be a better idea to use. But 2010 and later versions have the slicers, and 2013 and later versions have the timelines as well. So timeline is not there. Does Google Sheets have the slicers? Yes. Okay, Google Sheets also have the slicers, the same way as we are having in Excel. So pivot table analyze, insert slicer. So you can insert the slicers from two ways. You put your cursor inside the pivot table, go to pivot table analyze, and you can insert the slicer, insert the timeline. These are very tiny fonts. So generally, I don't prefer to go to pivot table analyze and then do it. I go to insert tab. Okay, and here you will find the slicers and timelines. So you can do it with insert time slicers and timelines as well. So I'm just doing insert slicer. I want it for segment, country, product, discount band. These four things. And also for date, we will add the timeline. Okay, for date, we will add the timeline. So segment, country, product, and discount band. The others are the values. So units sold, sales price, gross sales, discounts. All of these things are data. Okay, let me click OK. Now, as you can see here, this Canada has come up many times, and these segments have come selected as only government. That's because I had put the filters over here. Let me just uncheck this. And how we can format this. So first I will show you the formatting of this. and then we will cut and put it into our dashboard. So the first thing that we can do is right click the slicer settings, and hide items with no data. So as you can see, these hide items with no data. I don't have this Canada, which was multiple times that we had. Okay, so hide items with no data. You can do sorting. You can also have the custom list. What do you want to show as a caption? Okay. And let me just click this. Now, the moment that you select the slicer, there is this slicer options which will get activated. You can have it with different colors that you may want. Okay, so let's say I'm using this color for this slicer. You can select multiple and then also select the colors that you may want. So let's say I may want this color for this. Uh, and then let me cut this, Control X and dashboard, and I'm putting it over here. Now you can select and arrange the way that you may want. Let's say country, I want to have it here, but I don't want to have it in this one column. So I'll go to slicer and then maybe columns. I may want it into two different columns. So 2 columns or 3 columns, and then have the slicer over here. Okay, similarly, let's say I want the segment to be here and slicer and columns. I'm adding the columns. So like this, we can add the slicers. Okay, as we are running short of time, so I'm just going slightly faster for this. But definitely, if you have any questions, you can let me know. So slicers, and then I'm adding the columns. Okay, similarly, I'm going back to this table. Let's add the timeline. So insert timeline, and as there is a time or then there is this date. Okay, you can just click on the date. So whatever is the date formatting or a time formatting, that's where the timeline will come. There are some participants who are saying, please repeat. So let me very quickly show it to you. What I've done, I put my cursor into the pivot table, then I just did insert and then slicer. And then whatever data that you may want to show it as filters, you can click those items. Then the moment that you have the slicer, you have this slicer option activated on the top. Okay, you have these slicer settings, the same thing that we did, right click and slicer settings. So I generally do hide items with no data. So wherever there is zero or blank, not zero, but the blanks, okay, it will hide from showing it over here. You can also select the color combination that you may want. You can also have the columns to be formatted. Same way, you can also do the timeline. So insert and then timeline. So I've done the timeline same way as the slicer. This is exactly as the slicer. The only difference is that in the slicer, you have categorical data. So you can select, okay, you can select the categories. While in the timeline, okay, this is something like this. So it will be like, no, for how many, you can actually drag like this also. So you can actually drag something like this. Okay, so from June to October like that. Okay, and then you can just unfilter that. Same way as the slicer settings, you have the timeline settings. Okay, the color combination that you want, you can take. So let's say I want this color combination. You can want, you say that I only want to see October. Okay, so you click October. Currently, there is no data in October. September, August, July, let's say December 21. So November, December. So you can select this. Okay, the way that you want, you can show it. Moving on. Okay, one or two things that I would want to show you is, let us say I select this table, Control C. I paste it down. Okay, I do not create one more table, but I just pasted it down, and then I do changes in the columns, rows, and values. So what kind of changes that I want? I want a table like this now, where I want only segment-wise sales and the discount-wise profits. So I go back over here, I remove all the rows, all the columns, And then let's say gross sales in the values and the segment in the rows. Again, the same way you can do the formatting. So right click, value field settings, number format, currency. Okay. Okay. So this is the way that we may want. And on this, okay, I'm creating a pie graph. So this is a pie graph that I may want to create. Again, the formatting that you can do the way that you want. I want the legends to be shown on the top. I don't want this filled button. So hide all filled buttons on the chart. Maybe let's say you may want to show a 3D graph. So shape effects and then bevel and then this. So this any kind of formatting that you want, you can do on the graph. Let me cut it from here and put it in the dashboard. Let's say I want to put my graph here. I don't want the legends to be shown. So legends, I can just take it off. Okay. I'm just showing it slightly faster, but then the idea is that you can create any kind of chart that you want and the way that you may want to present. Okay, I want to show you very important aspect of pivot table in the next no 2-3 minutes, and that's why this charts that no I've just gone slightly faster. I hope that is fine. Okay, but this idea is clear to everybody that you can create as many charts as you may want, as many tables that you may want, and then you can just cut it and paste it and then you can design. So this is the way that you can design. Okay, let me show you one of the most important aspects that I generally use in the pivot tables, which many of the people are not aware about. Okay, I want to create a pivot table. So as you can see, this is like product. Let me show this to you. Field settings. So you have product segments, sales profits, and the values. Okay, this is something that I want to show you. Sales, 2 items. Okay, so you have sales to be coming for 2 items. Come back to the file. Let me just show this to you. Control C of the table, Control V of the table. Okay, Harsh has the question. Just tell how to use slicer if I want to see data of 2 countries, Canada and one more. So I have to select those 2 in slicer. In the slicer, you have to select with control. So let's say Amarilla, Carretera, and Montana. So with the control click, you can. Okay, timeline is not working for the graph. Timeline works for the graph in my case. Okay, if you have an older version, then probably you may not have the timeline. Timeline is only after 2013 onwards. 2010 version and 2007 version doesn't have the timeline. Okay, so let me show you, which I was telling you, which I think is very important for the pivot tables. Show fill list. I'm just removing this segment as well as sum of gross sales. This is a blank pivot table that we have got. Let's say I want to do segment wise, country wise. So I have now segment and country, and I don't want sales, cost of goods sold, profit, everything. But what I want is that I want to see the profits and formatting. Yes, we can do. So I'm just doing number format, currency. Okay. Okay. But what I don't want only the summation. I want the maximum, minimum, average, everything. So I add this profit not once, but 3-4 times in the values. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, 4 times I added profits. In the first one, automatically it has taken sum. In the second one, I don't want the sum, but I want the average. So what needs to be done? Right click, and you have 2 things over here. Summarize value by, show value as. So if you do summarize value by, it is giving you many options over here. Maybe sum, count, average, max, min, product. Okay, so I did summation earlier. Let me do average now. So this is average of profit. The third one I can do maximum. Fourth one I can do minimum. So this is called as summarize value by. Without doing any kind of calculations, you can add the calculations in your pivot table with multiple fields. Okay, same field you can put as many times as you want. And one more thing that you can do is called as show value as. Okay, show value as. So let's say I'm adding this profits once again. So sum of profit 2. These 4 items that we have seen is the summarized value by. The next ones that I'm showing you is show value as. Now I want to show this as a percentage of total. So let's say channel partners is what percentage of total. So I'll do right click and show value as percentage of grand total, percentage of column total, percentage of row total, parent row total. Many things are there. You can do ranking. So I request all of you that please try this. Okay, this is something that you can try on your own. Try to explore different things. So let's say grand total. These are all percentage of grand total. I can add the profits once more and let me show it as a show value as percentage of row total. Of course, this is not row. We may need the columns. Okay, so let's say parent row total. So if I take parent row total, okay, in 9.76%, which is the total 9.76% of total. So channel partners contribute approximately 10% of the total profits. But in that, 25% is coming from Canada, 20% is coming from France, 15% is coming from Germany, so on and so forth. So this is the way that we can do the analysis. Now, these two things, generally, I find that many people may not be much aware about. And this is one of the most important aspects of pivot tables. Okay. Is this useful? Is this useful? Yes, no? Yeah. So this is again on this, you can create some kind of charts and then you can put it into the dashboard. Let me just very quickly go through the dashboard and see if something important is not missed out. This is a simple no slicer that we have put all this top. This is a timeline. This is a pie graph that is created on a pivot. This is a line graph. This is a bar graph. Okay, map graph is also possible, but directly on the pivot you cannot. So if I have, let's say this, instead of segment, if I put country, okay, on this, I can create a map graph. Again, let me tell you, this is only for Office 365 version. This is not available for other versions. I have currently Office 365. So it will allow me to create a field map, insert, and in the charts, this is allowing now, as you can see, this cannot be created on a pivot table. So you need to take this outside the pivot table. And let me call this as country and equal to and this. And after that, I can create. So let's say this is data. So within the pivot table, it will not be, but you can link the data and then create a map graph on that. Okay, then it will allow. So as you can see, this is outside it. There are certain charts which will not directly draw on the pivot table. Some of these charts are map. Then you have waterfall, funnel, stock. This will not be directly allowing you on the pivot table. You have to take your data outside and then do it. Okay. And the last thing that I want to show you today in this, which is a pain for many people. Okay, you create a pivot chart or pivot table. You do equal to link the data with the pivot table. And many of you must be getting something called as a very big formula called as get pivot data. Okay, is it available? I mean, many of you do get pivot data and get worried that, okay, how do I actually use that? Yes, no. Those who have been working on the pivot tables, many of you must be finding that, right? So I'll give you a simple trick. Okay, as you can see on the screen, when I'm linking this inside the pivot table, there is no get pivot data. There is only the cell. Okay, so what you can do, if you want to use this pivot table for further calculations later on the right hand side, and you don't want the get pivot data, you simply need to put your cursor on that pivot table. Go to pivot table, analyze, pivot table options. And here you have this generate get pivot data. Okay, that you need to deactivate. The other way that you can do, so many people are not comfortable with this. Okay, the other way that you can do is, which I generally do, you can go to file, options, and here you have data. And not data, sorry, this was earlier in the general, then it went into formulas, sorry. So you have these formulas, and here you have this use get pivot data functions for pivot table references. Please untick that. So if you untick, okay, if you untick, then no, you can get rid of this get pivot data function. Okay, so this is what that I had to share with you. I hope that whatever we discussed, but please be in the meeting for another 5 minutes. Okay, I want to share something important with you. I would be sharing a feedback link. Apart from that, something important that I'm sharing with you. But let me just have a very quick understanding. Whatever we discussed today, is this useful, everybody? I'll share the recording link so that I know that right now, if you were not able to work along with me, later on you can. Thank you, everyone. Why this map showing no data in it? I need to actually accept it. So your data needed to create your map chart will be sent to Bing. So it is asking the permission. If I accept, then it will show. Because this is Microsoft powered maps. So that's why. Okay, there are many things that we can do in the pivot tables. In fact, I'm planning to launch a course for more number of days as well on this. This was just, you can say, an introductory that we could see in the pivot tables. There are a lot of things in the pivots that we can do. More importantly, we can do power pivot. Okay, that also we can do. One request, if no, Vimal, are you there in the group? Are you there in the meeting? Vimal, can you please share have you got the feedback? Okay, let me share over here. Okay, here is a link for the feedback. So before you log out, okay, just be here for another 2-3 minutes. Okay, I'm sharing a feedback link, and I request all of you to give your feedback, please. Apart from that, let me also very quickly take you through something. Of course, just what I do currently, and know what, in case if somebody may want to contact me. There was a question by a participant who asked that, how can we contact you for the further trainings and all. So these are our offerings. So myself and a couple of my fellow trainers, we have started this venture, and we are offering training programs. We do take project assignments, we do consulting, we do the content development also, e-learning development. If anybody wants to do that also, we are available to do sessions, trainings, assignments, projects, consulting, content development on various aspects related to advanced Excel functionalities, data analytics, Power Query, Power Pivot. I do take the sessions on the PowerPoint. So all the types of office tools, okay, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, uh, as well as the other, maybe Outlook and other things that you may want to see. Data analytics courses, function wise. So basic analysis as well as the advanced analytics. Maybe yes, Victor has a very important question. On the feedback link, can we provide the email address in which the video recording can be sent? Yes. Please correctly write your email addresses, because in the registration forms, I've seen that some of the spelling mistakes were there. Somebody may have written instead of com, and I got a no bouncing of the emails. So please correctly write the email addresses. Okay. So, data analytics course that we do offer the analytics courses right from basics to advanced, right from basic analysis to statistical analysis, predictive analytics, and also the function wise. We have done many trainings for HR analytics as well as the analytics for sales and marketing professionals. I personally have done many sessions on, no, for the professionals which are in the treasury and portfolio management. Um, Data visualization with Power BI, Tableau, ClickSense, Excel, storytelling and dashboarding. This is also something that we do. And also the other programs in the areas of various financial subjects like capital markets, derivatives, risk management, project evaluation, credit analysis. Okay, finance for non-finance, that we do a lot. Uh, and these are the coordinates. Okay, you can contact me on this email address as well as number, and this is my LinkedIn profile. If you would like, you can take a screenshot of that or a picture of that. And there is a website which is in process. We are developing a website. We will be sharing the website very soon with you. And Amit, there's a question: how can we get the recording of this session? Please write your email address in the feedback link. uh, all those who have joined this session, I'll be sharing the no link for the recording with you. If possible, teachers look up formula. Yes, sir. We can definitely have another session. We are open for the training assignments on the advanced Excel, basic Excel, everything. Definitely. Lookup formula, we look up, H lookup. Now the Office 365 has even further lookups into it. Okay, you have X lookup. There are very important functions like VStack, HStack, unique. Okay, there are some functions which are spill functions or the array functions. Lot of new things which have come up. And important part of Excel is using the Power Query. We have not discussed Power Query, but I find Power Query very useful. Power Query and Power BI is something which I use in my data analysis almost on a daily basis. So we will be also working on that. Okay, so please give your feedback. And how will we know that the next session when comes? We will be announcing, sir. I'll announce it on my LinkedIn. I'll announce it on my Facebook. As well as those who have registered for this session, we will be sharing through email as well. Yes, Harsh has a good idea how to use the flash fills. Flash fills is a very simple and very useful functionality. We will see that. Yes. Himanshu, I just request you that please put this email address in your feedback form as well. So I hope whatever we discussed today is useful. I know we had to close at 8, but we stretched it for another 10 minutes. Uh, but I'm sure that no, many of you must have found it useful. We will announce the next set of sessions, and once our website is on, I'll share the website also with all of you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. Please feel free to contact for any queries, any questions that you have, any clarifications that you want. And also, no, if you would like us to do some assignments, some trainings for you. Yes, recording of the session is there. We will be sharing it with you. Thanks everyone for being the part of this session. I really enjoyed being with you. I hope you also liked the session. Thank you. So I'll just stop the recording.